Great to welcome in Lowcountry State Senator Tom Davis to WHHI for the fastest 5 minutes in television. We're gonna keep it rocking and rolling. Before we get into the state Senate's budget priorities, which you'll be involved in over the next few weeks, I want to go back a week. The State House and the Senate passed, and then the governor signed a new open carry legislation that makes gun regulation a little looser in South Carolina. You voted against it. Why?
Well, yeah, it's a bill referred to as constitutional carry, or permitless carry is also what it's known by. And currently in South Carolina, you can carry both concealed weapon on your person in public amongst people, and also you can carry it openly. Yeah. And I voted for both of those in years past. I'm a big Second Amendment supporter. But what this particular legislation did was saying you can't have a firearm and carry it on your person without a permit, which means without a background check and without any sort of training, an 8-hour training class to make sure you know how to handle a firearm proficiently. And in my opinion, the benefits of that particular bill were exceeded by the potential costs. And so I voted no against permitless carry.
Okay. Some people would say that a lot of law enforcement were in favor of voting this down as well. For all the legislators who claim to back the blue, is this kind of a backhanded way of going about it?
Well, that's one of the first things that I did is I checked with our sheriff, P.J. Tanner, and he was adamantly opposed to it. He said it would put his law enforcement personnel at risk, would make their job a lot more difficult. And I have a lot of respect for Sheriff Tanner. And so his opinion in that regard weighed a lot with me. Okay. And look, I weighed the facts in this matter. I looked at the pros and cons. I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. But when you came down to it, if you're talking about individuals carrying firearms in public, I thought that a background check and some minimum proficiency with a firearm was the way to go.
Okay, let's now go into the budget priorities for the state Senate. The House has pretty much passed a budget of theirs that does have pay increases for teachers and state employees, though not quite as ambitious as a year ago, because they say we're not going to have as much extra money to spend. Where are we as this heads into the Senate?
Yeah, I think the House did a fairly good job of laying down some priorities. I mean, I think we should first note that we had $13.9 billion we spent last year in the state budget. And this year, the House version of the budget is $13.2 billion. So we're spending $700 million less this year than we did last year. And that's in large part so we can give a $500 million rebate to homeowners for property taxes. On average, there'll be a $359 tax credit or per household. So $500 million goes to property tax relief. We did do a good job, or the House did a good job of also setting aside additional money for teacher pay. About $230 million of new revenues went toward increasing pay. I think you'll see the state Senate try to build upon that. We share Governor McMaster's goal of getting South Carolina teacher pay up to the national average over time. And so that's very important, because if you want to increase outcomes in classrooms, I mean, there's nothing more important than having a quality teacher in that classroom. And you're not going to get quality teachers unless you offer a pay that's commensurate with what other states are paying their teachers. I mean, it's a finite amount of individuals out there that can be employed as teachers. And so if we want to be competitive, if we want to get the best and brightest in our classrooms, which we do, we have to have a pay schedule that's commensurate with it. So I think we'll see the Senate try to build on that. Some other priorities the House laid out, which I think are good, is we have another $200 million of general fund revenues going to roads and bridges. I mean, that's on top of the billions of dollars that go into roads and bridges from the gas tax. Right. So we are continuing to supplement gas tax revenues with general fund revenues, because we recognize that improving our state's infrastructure, improving our state's roads and bridges is critical, not only from a public safety standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint. And here in the Lowcountry, that means I-95 being widened to 3 lanes in each direction, taking it up first to Exit 8 from the Georgia line, and then from Exit 8 up to the Walterboro exits, 278, 170, Argent Boulevard. I mean, we have a whole host of infrastructure needs here in southern Beaufort County in particular that I'm going to be particularly paying attention to. So I think the House did a good job of laying down some markers. I think we can build on some of those improvements in the Senate.
All right, we look forward to watching all of that. Again, State Senator Tom Davis, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll be back with more of the WHHI Daily News right after this.